How much VC funding should you raise? If you're unsure about how much money you should raise, you're not alone. Most CEOs don't realize the connection between the amount of money they want to raise and their chances of actually securing the funding. Here's the thing. Raising the right amount of funding isn't just guesswork. It's a strategy. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the mistakes you don't want to make, and I'll share my 5-step plan to determine how much VC funding you should raise. I hope you like it. Hi, I'm Brett. On my channel, I help early-stage startup CEOs like you raise money and grow your startup. So if this sounds like you, then hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get notified every time I release a new video. Let's get started. And let's start with mistake number 1 of the 3 most likely mistakes you don't want to make raising funding. Number 1 on our list. You're raising too little money. I want to raise less money because it will be easier. I hear that every week from CEOs that I talk to. It may seem like it's a good thing to raise less money. However, the reality is that raising less money means that you're likely to accomplish less. And maybe you've cut the time between funding rounds down. And making matters worse, your potential investors know this too. That's why raising less money can make it impossible for you to raise your funding. Next, let's move to the second mistake on our list. Number 2 on our list. Number 2, you can't justify why you're raising this amount. Investors are going to ask you why you want to raise $1 million or $5 million or whatever the amount of money you want to raise is. The answer I hear too often is, that's what my competitors are raising. I'm sorry, but that's not enough. You need logical reasons why you need the amount of money you're asking for. I'll get back to this later in the video. Next, let's move to the third reason on our list. Number 3, you're not ready to raise money. When I started raising the initial funding for my company, I thought I was ready, but I wasn't. My pitch deck was horrible. My plan wasn't complete, and I didn't have the team around me that I needed to be successful. I eventually raised our initial funding of $12.1 million, but it took me 2 long years. Maybe I would have been able to raise my funding much faster if I had been ready at the start. I want to make sure this doesn't happen to you. I want you to be ready at the start of your fundraising. So let's move on to my 5-step plan to determine how much funding you really need. And let's start with step number 1 on our list. Step 1, how much money do you really need? Let me give you some guidelines to help you. Ideally, you want your funding to last at least 18 months, if not 24 months. The reason is the average time to raise a round of funding is 6 months. That's the average. But it can take much longer, as witnessed by the 24 months it took me. If you raise too small an amount, then you're in what I call perpetual fundraising mode. The shorter time period between rounds of funding means that you accomplish less, and that makes it harder to raise the next round of funding. For example, David told me he needed $15 million to get his company off the ground. Obviously, that's a lot of money for an early stage startup. And I'll analyze this later in the video. David said that amount would allow him to prove out his idea technically, and he would have a lot to show investors. This was his first pass at a number. Now we can move to step number 2 on our list. Step number 2. You want to reduce your risk and your investors' risk. I asked David why he needed that amount of money. And David produced a list of expensive equipment, people, and facilities that he needed to achieve his goals. I told David the obvious. $15 million is a lot of money. What can you do to reduce the amount and achieve the same thing? At first, David was adamant that there was no other way to prove out his idea. Then I told David the story of Ray. Ray's company was a hardware company like David's that needed a lot of money to get started. Ray's company was also going after a large market with a big idea that could change the world. However, Ray reduced the amount of money he needed by finding a way to prove out his idea in software first instead of hardware. This helped Ray raise his initial $6 million of funding. By the way, Ray's company is now worth over $1.6 billion. It took David about 1 week to come up with his new plan, using software to prove out his idea. That reduced the initial funding he needed to $5 million. That's the key. The more you reduce the risk, the more likely it is that you'll be able to get an investment. Now, let's move to step number 3 on our list. Step number 3. Step number 3. Determine how much money you need for the life of your company. I have no idea how much money I'm going to need, David said to me. I hear you, but it's important you have some idea, I said. The reason I told David this is that investors are going to try and estimate how much money you need to get the cash flow positive. Therefore, you should too, because the question of how much money you need to get the cash flow positive is one of the questions investors will ask you. So don't you think it would be a good idea to have an answer? Take the time to develop a financial plan for the next 5 years of your company's life. It isn't as hard as you think. Yes, you'll need to forecast your revenue. Yes, you'll need a headcount plan. And yes, you'll need to have your estimated expenses, but you can do it. If you want some help, you can use a software tool like liveplan.com to help you walk through and develop your financial plan. Now let's move to step number 4 on our list. Step number 4, make sure you have a fundable plan. By fundable, I mean that the return investors are seeking is possible. For early stage startups, investors are seeking a 30x, that's right, 30x return on their money. So if you raise $1 million, your investors are expecting to have the possibility of making at least $30 million. You want to make sure this is realistic. For example, let's say you give up 20% of your company for the $1 million investment. This means your company has to be worth at least $150 million at some point for your early stage investors to want to invest. Then you need to extend this process to all the money you'll need through the life of your company. I am not saying you should adjust your plan if this isn't possible. I am saying to raise money that you need a plan that makes this possible in a market that makes this possible. If both can't be true, then you will have difficulty raising your funding. Now let's move on to the last step in our plan. Step number 5. Step number 5. Research your potential investors. You need to build a list of potential investors so you know who to target. There are various tools you can use, but my favorite is Crunchbase.com because it has the largest list of potential investors worldwide. Let's say you're raising seed funding for your SaaS startup based in London. Then you want to build a list of investors that have done seed funding for SaaS startups based in London. A tool like Crunchbase.com can help you do this. But let's say you build your list and you can't find any investors that invest in your space at the amount that you want to raise. Then you might need to change the amount of money you're raising and change your plan accordingly. For example, when I was raising my initial funding, there were some investors that were interested in participating in a round of $7 million instead of the $12 million we raised. If you want to raise $7 million, then you need to adjust your plan to fit the check size, which is exactly what we did. If this content is resonating with you, then please hit the like button right now. One final thought. You want to test the market. When you do start raising money, I would start with trying to arrange meetings with around 10 investors. These investors are probably not my top choices because I know there will be mistakes in my pitch. Gather feedback from these investors and improve your pitch and your plan. Then keep repeating this process until hopefully you raise your money. Remember, an angel investor or VC will invest in one company for every 100 meetings. That's right, 100 meetings that they take. Now, if you have any questions for me, please put them in the comments column below today's video. Now, I have two more things for you today. The first thing is my free startup pitch deck template. It has all the slides you need to develop an awesome pitch deck. Click the link below this video and it's yours for free. The second thing is, if you haven't already, join my free group of startup CEOs, Zero to Pitch. It is a community for startup CEOs focusing on growing their early stage startups and startup CEOs raising money for their early stage startups. Click the link below this video to join. Finally, click the subscribe button to get notified every time I release a new video. I'm Brett at brettjfox.com. Thanks for watching today. Take care. Bye.